joining us. A brief introduction for the first timers to our webinars. Menopause Movement are menopause e-learning educators for health and fitness professionals looking to generate more business opportunities in an underserved demographic. Women who are pre, peri and postmenopausal that want to be healthier and more active, but perhaps feel a little intimidated by fitness settings. We're really excited about this webinar. It's in collaboration with one of our training partners, Places Leisure, who are a social enterprise which strives to be the UK's leading health and wellbeing enabler, creating active places and healthy people for communities to thrive. It experiences over 30 million visitors per annum across 80 leisure facilities that it operates on behalf of local authorities across the country. Having recognised the need to encourage midlife women to enjoy using their facilities, a cohort of their team members from the Wyre Forest Leisure Centre enrolled on our Menopause Movement training course, and from their learnings, they then built their own Move Through Menopause course. We're joined this evening by their team of trainers who generated this amazing course and who are going to share with us the first ever assessment outcomes of a course of this kind. So in no particular order, because I know they're sitting in different ways, I'm going to introduce Lauren. Lauren is a Healthy Communities Coordinator for Places Leisure at Wyre Forest Leisure Centre. Let's also welcome Tracy, who changed her career 13 years ago and retrained as a fitness instructor and personal trainer. At age 53, Tracy has first-hand experience of menopause and knows how tough it can be for some. And she believes the right information and knowledge in their journey can be improved. And finally, we welcome Sarah. Sarah got into fitness age 36 after having health issues following birth from her youngest child. And after seeing firsthand how life-changing exercise can be, she decided to help others regain their health and fitness. And at age 42, she recently began experiencing symptoms that she believes are early perimenopause. So is right at the start of her menopause journey, and the Menopause Movement training course and her own research has given her confidence to manage the changes she's starting to experience, and she feels positive that this will help her with her own journey. So now you've met our guests, let me introduce you to Christine Bird, who is our clinical lead at Menopause Movement, and she will be our webinar host for this evening, and she's going to take it over from here, and I think I've said enough. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome everyone. Great to have you all here. And I'm looking forward to a lively discussion now or later on our membership circle, on our member circle as well. But let me start about those three sitting so it's such a neatly fashion next to each other. They truly are the dream team. They deserve so much credit. As I've sort of met this team a couple of times now, absolutely don't be fooled about how understated those three Menopause Movement warriors are. They really are superstars. They've achieved an impressive amount and not just developed the course, but also assessed the impact and managed to present an understandable manner with real data. And I love a bit of data, so that's great. So to start with, tell us how it all started, the first reason to start the program, and how did you go about finding training?
So our company was looking for a healthy communities project that they could sink their teeth into, basically. So our general manager here at Wyre Forest was talking to the healthy communities manager to form this project. And while bouncing ideas around, they came up with this idea for a project around the menopause. And they realised due to there was a huge demand for it, basically, because there's basically nothing like it around here in this community, and even nationally, it is quite a unique course. And we just wanted to give support to people who needed it, really. And the community need was assessed, and they thought it was a good idea to go along with. And the whole course was based along projects that previously run, and so they knew how to start it, finish it, what would go on. The funding for it was provided from the National Leisure Recovery Fund in partnership with the Wyre Forest District Council, and they agreed to fund the training. as well as the programme itself. And the funding has allowed us to eventually complete 7 cohorts of this course, to give back to our community, basically. And so far, I think it's doing brilliantly for our community. In the first cohort alone, we had 25 members that benefited in our community from this course.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's fantastic. So before the training, how confident before you did the training did you feel about discussing menopause with clients, and how did it change in terms of training with menopausal women since you've done the course?
So before, me and Tracy were quite lucky that we did have quite a good prior knowledge about the menopause. Tracy, because of having been experiencing it herself, and both of us because we're quite passionate about researching things. We had personal training clients, members that were approaching us within the gym and expressing that they were struggling because of menopause symptoms. So we knew that there was a good demand there for it. The menopause course that we did through you guys, through Menopause Movement, was a massive help to us, because it reinforced the knowledge that we already had, but also provided us with extra bits that enabled us to then go on and create the course that we created.
So do you sort of feel in retrospect, did you need some additional training? How important was it to developing the program and so putting all the information together as well?
Yeah, we're not doctors like you are, when so we kind of just drew from our own personal experience, but your course just reinforced all the learning that we needed, and all the different subjects that we covered on the course. So yes, definitely it was really, really useful for us.
It gave us the confidence that the information that we were providing throughout the course was accurate and up to date, and that definitely assisted us.
Yeah, and so having worked with your team, it was clear that you already came with a really good foundation of knowledge as well. So in terms of planning this fantastic move through the menopause team, how did you start it? How did you go about planning the course itself?
The course runs for 12 weeks, and each week we chose a different subject to do with the menopause. So such as different stages of the menopause, hormones, HRT, women's health, and how important movement and exercise and training is to it. And we also combine that with different exercises and training each week as well. We have a brilliant leisure centre here, so we used all the facilities here, such as we've got a spin studio and a swimming pool and a gym. So we used all those facilities here to combine the exercise and movement with it as well.
Yeah, I love the sort of whole range of different exercises, so women could reframe. I think some of the problems that women always think, oh, if I exercise, I either have to run or I have to go to the gym. Yeah. I think you've done wonderfully well in terms of reframing that, because you had your gym induction, your spin, your yoga, your dance, your relaxation, your weight and resistance, your outside walk, badminton as well. Is that right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, body balance, swim and aqua, Pilates, mindfulness. I mean, that's such a lovely range for women to choose from. So hopefully something resonated with most of them. Also, just like an outside walk. What a brilliant idea to add that to the course as well.
It was lovely, actually. We've got a canal locally, so we kind of took them all on a walk down the canal and to the local park, and it was just really nice. They broke up into groups and were chatting, and it was really good.
Yeah, because those social connections are so important as well, and it's great that the course has done that. Just sort of going back to sort of some of the original work, I know Tanya's here from Women in Sport, but I believe that the menopause research Women in Sport did and was published a couple of years ago has been super, super helpful, also very much embedded into our Menopause Movement course. In terms of barriers to exercise, which are huge for women into the menopause, some of those are shame, body confidence, fear, judgment. How, with the 27 women you had on the course, how did you talk about these barriers, and how did you help women to overcome some of those barriers?
I think we tried to create a really safe space where, you know, you're in a group of setting with all these women in, and we all kind of, when you start talking about how you're feeling or what you're going through, you can kind of, you know, relate to every person there. So we just wanted to make it quite a safe space where you could talk honestly and open, and there was no judgment about what you were going through. And once you started kind of sharing your worries and concerns, you could all relate to it, and you just felt like you weren't alone. Yeah. And it was a normal process, what you were feeling and what you were going through.
We created a buddy system quite early on, so for women who maybe didn't do any exercise at all, we kind of within the group said, is there anybody that's struggling to access the classes or the gym, and would there be somebody that you would be happy to go in with? So within the group they buddied up and kind of took each other under their wing and headed on out and joined in with things. That was really nice.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that was in the Women in Sport research. That was one of their sort of recommendations as well, that buddying up really does work. And it makes complete sense because it's so much more fun.
Yeah, it's a bit like safety in numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't feel quite so alone if you've got somebody to go with, and it's that motivation and encouragement to go as well. We also set up a WhatsApp group, so somebody's like, I'm going to the gym tomorrow, would anybody like to come along, or I'm going to try this new class, would somebody like to try it with me? So that worked really well as well.
Yeah,
great. And the WhatsApp group, did that become quite lively? Did you really have to feed that and encourage that? How did it?
It kind of created itself. We added everybody in, and people sort of started saying hi to each other, and then before we knew it, they were posting hints and tips of things that they tried themselves. And it's been really, and they've carried it on as well afterwards, so they do still post in there, which is really, really good.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's also what I'd like to hear about a bit more. One of the other main barriers the research of women in sports found was not feeling fit enough. And that was a barrier for 45% of women, that they just didn't feel that they were fit enough to turn up to a leisure facility or a gym.
Yeah,
that's a bit of a catch-22. How can we help women over the hump? And from what you've learned, any top tips from your experience?
Yeah, I think so. Encouragement seemed to be one of the biggest things. So the activities that we put in it was a really broad range. There was something that we felt that everybody could join in. So the ones that they were a little bit nervous about, maybe the kind of what you would consider to be the harder activities, we just encouraged them, got them to join in with the ones that they could, and actually it worked out really, really well. So I think one of the biggest things, being embarrassed to work out in front of people because you don't feel fit enough, but the group that we'd created and the environment that they were in meant that wasn't an issue, really.
Yeah, you've done very well at making, creating that safe space. This is my pet subject, anything to do with wee poo or prolapse. So another obviously main barrier is urinary leakage and pelvic organ prolapse symptoms. On our course, we talk about that in depth. There's a whole module around this and how to overcome it and modify exercise. How did you help those women in a group setting? And are there any personal stories that they were brave enough to share that you would like to share with us?
It wasn't actually something that the ladies on the course expressed as a concern, to be honest. Yeah. For one of the weeks, we did invite a lady in from a company called Body in Balance, and she's a specialist in pelvic health physio and specialises in all aspects of women's health. So we had a really enjoyable afternoon. She brought in some props and just spoke to us about the importance of pelvic health, pelvic floor, and how poor pelvic health can impact all aspects of life.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, my phone is just bleeping because my Squeezy app to do my pelvic floor was it's just going
great timing.
Just going off. So anyone here who hasn't download the Squeezy app today. It really does. It really does
We
help.
did recommend it in our presentation. It
Right,
was on
excellent.
the presentation.
I think it's great. So obviously women had a real choice what they sort of could pick in terms of activities. Were there any specific activities they were reluctant to do, and how did you guide them and encourage them, especially the ones that weren't so confident about exercising?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be activities I think that people are nervous about, and I think it's probably the obvious ones. So we did a week where we had an aqua class, and we got them in the pool, and I know there was a few that were nervous about that because of body image issues, putting on a swimming costume, which is something that a lot of the women hadn't done for a long time. But I think, again, the safe environment that they were in, it was only them in the pool at the time. There was nobody else there. So actually we didn't have too many issues with getting them in. We had a really good turnout for that one. Group cycling, I think, maybe another one, because of the image that it has surrounding it, that it's quite a difficult, hard activity. And we all know that the saddles are not the most comfortable things to sit on, which does put a lot of women off. But again, we gave them advice, things like padded saddles, padded shorts, come and give it a go. It can be adapted for every level of fitness. And actually, there's a couple of the ladies that came and really enjoyed it and still come now. So, and then one that actually surprised us was badminton. That they were very reluctant to try, but they really, really got into it and really enjoyed it. It was nice to see their competitive side coming out. And then again, a couple of them have since buddied up and booked on courts because we've got the facilities here. And they've carried that on. So I think just overall, the ones that gave them a try, even the ones that they were nervous of, they found that they weren't as bad as they thought they were going to be. So
from the feedback that we got, I remember at least 10 of them were going, the range of activities that were available to us were just give it a try. Yeah. And they enjoyed all of them, even though they didn't think they would. Okay, obviously some more than others, but they were so impressed with the range that they felt they could do any of them, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good learning point for all of us. If it gets reframed and it gets offered in a safe space, people will give things a go. And it's great to hear that badminton, because playing a game is fun, isn't it? It's like playing a game again. So that's rather than thinking exercise got to be like, full of effort, and but you can just have a bit of fun. You can just have a bit of fun as well. So you're obviously going to run the course second time around. I think you've already started, haven't you?
Yes, I'm running the second course by myself. We've done 2 weeks. We've started with week 3's tomorrow. New bunch of ladies. It's going really well. Week 1 was amazing, to be honest. It didn't quite go to plan as I expected. We did a little meet and greet, and who you are, introduce yourself, and I was thinking it's just going to be 10 minutes. It was nearly an hour.
Wow.
And it was just, I don't know, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. It was just a powerful time. We had at least 3 or 4 of the women break down in tears.
Wow.
I don't know, I've got a quote from one of the ladies and this was like after week 1, and she says, "This is the first time I felt I can get past the anxiety and start to enjoy a full life again."
Wow.
And that was week 1.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we gave them a safe space to just talk about how they were feeling, what they were going through. You may not be able to tell it to your husband or your partner, your children won't understand. And it was almost like that release, that outpouring of emotion, and talking about the symptoms, what they were going through. And it was a really powerful time. And it was
so wonderful. So wonderful to hear that, but also it breaks your heart to hear how isolated so many women are. So we just all have to do so much more of this. A lot of work to be done. Have you adapted the course second time around at all?
We kind of adapted it each week as we went through the first course, and obviously it's a thing that evolves, isn't it? New legislation comes out or new studies are done. So we kind of adapted it as we went along. I mean, one of the weeks we had the new legislation about the PPC come out, the prepayment certificate. So we felt that was an important thing that we wanted to include. So we put a new slide in for that. But basically, we've kept it the same as because the feedback and everything from
the thing is we wanted the course to be easily replicated. So we've kind of tried not to change too much, so that can then be taken into the other centres and rolled out and used.
No, absolutely.
And if somebody wants to discuss a certain subject that we may not have included, we're very open to all sorts of discussions, because no one woman's journey is the same, experience is the same. So
no, actually I find that because I'm speaking at the physio conference next month, and I asked loads of physios, what do you want me to cover, because I've only got 40 minutes. Everyone came up with something completely different, so in a way really unhelpful, because I've only still got 40 minutes, but it just shows how different everyone's journey is, and also the stories they hear from other women. In terms of our Menopause Movement course, what we tried to put together is something that was holistic with all the different disciplines for health and fitness professionals, but I was rigorous in terms of evidence-based and no-nonsense information, but we really wanted to present it in a simple, understandable and repeatable way, a bit what you were just saying, Tracy, that someone else can repeat it in your own workplace as well. So we're delighted that we have been able to do this with you, because you already with the prior knowledge have been able to put it together, develop it in a repeatable way. So in terms of what this has done for what you are developing, we talked a lot about what it's done for women, which sounds amazing. What has it done for your business and service development?
It's kind of put our business completely at the forefront of menopause projects, and it's allowed us to give back to our communities, which is a really big push for us at the moment. And it's put us one step closer to reaching that company goal of becoming the UK's leading health and wellbeing enabler, creating these active places and healthy people for communities to thrive around us. So it's been really important in that sense for us, finding out there was that big demand for it and the lack of support. And from a personal business point of view as well, it's so heartwarming to hear how it has changed these women's lives for the better and just improved their day-to-day life. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I can really hear it. I can really hear it in the way you're talking about it, and things like that make you skip back from work, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it really has. And even, in this leisure centre on its own, it's been able to give our members more value to their membership, give people that maybe weren't members something that they could join in as well if they wanted to. It has brought in a couple of non-members purchasing memberships, and we've made that an incentive by giving them like a discount code if they did complete the course. So all round it's been amazing for us, really.
So it's rewarding all the way for everyone, rewarding for everyone involved. What's the key thing you've learned that has impacted the way you work with women into the menopause the most? What kind of has changed through this whole journey?
I mean, on a personal level, as a personal trainer, I think it's helped us to understand our clients better. It helps us then work with them, knowing the things that they're experiencing. So even outside of the course, the learning from you guys at Menopause Movement, the course that we did there, it's been massively beneficial to us as trainers, I think.
That sounds great. And also, of course, we're super excited that you managed to measure the impact as well, because that is still so rare in a fitness setting. And I know from a trade show we recently went to as well, where there are lots of very good talks about, there's so much value, but so often it doesn't get measured. And if you don't measure it, it's always guesswork. Can you explain the key outcomes of the impact assessment, and also any feedback from the women, although you've already given some, be really helpful to hear a little bit more about?
So the main two questionnaires that the ladies took part in, they did pre and post questionnaires. They are this week going to get a post questionnaire. But they were the short Warwick Edinburgh mental wellbeing scale and the menopause rating scale. And as you can see from these graphs here, the one on the left, there was an increase in the mental well-being of the ladies after the course. And I think you could see that from the way they opened up and they felt they could talk about it. They got this weight off their shoulders. They felt relieved. So obviously that went up, and that's absolutely amazing. Also, the menopause rating scale data demonstrated a decrease as well. So they thought that the severity of their symptoms had decreased over the length of the course because they were given ways to improve them and things like that throughout the course. So there was the menopause rating scale was split into different ones. The one you see on the graph there is the total of it.
Yeah.
The somatic went down by 20%, which suggests that the physical discomfort that these women were feeling was reduced significantly. And there was also a decrease in psychological symptoms by 42% and intimate symptoms by 46%, which showcased that the course could effectively address these often overlooked but really critical aspects of the menopause. So overall, that data as well, I mean, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think this needs a randomized control. It's called trial, I think, because this is data that is so promising and probably better than a lot of medical interventions as well. So it'd be really, really interesting to sort of look at a control group versus a group that does the program. And I have to say, I did expect that women, because your program was set up so well, would take up more exercise and sport. I hadn't expected that the symptoms and their mental health would change in such a short period of time. So to me, that was a real, in a positive way, a real surprise outcome that I really wasn't expecting. And it'd be interesting to hear the follow-up as well, see if that has continued. So I'll have to get you back and then you have to let us know.
Yeah, I'll do a post one.
That's right, exactly. That's one of the things women, so going back to kind of the women's experience again, obviously you had some strength and resistance training as one of your modules as well. Often when I see people in clinic as well, people don't want to do high impact of strength and they're really worried about bulking up. Especially, I think the new generation after menopausal women are changing and reframing that. But I think a lot of women into the menopause are still worried about bulking up. What's your response to that, if they're worried about that?
I think the important thing for us was that explaining sort of female physiology to them and how difficult it actually is, because I think and it's what we hear from all women when they come into the gym. They always head straight for the cardio, avoid the resistance side of things, and when you talk to them about it, it's always because they're worried about building visible significant muscle. And it's just kind of getting them to understand that actually that's really, really hard. You know, we've trained for years and none of us have any visible significant muscle. So yeah, it is just getting that across to them and highlighting the benefits that they will see from doing that training, from the high intensity training and the resistance training. So, you know, the protection it's going to give them later on in life from things like osteoporosis and helping to support their mobility. So there's way more benefits, and we just highlight that with them, really.
But yeah, that's such a perfect response. I'm sure many of all of you here will have very similar scripts like that, come across the same questions and worries. So in terms of Place of Leisure, where are you going from here? You've already got the second course, so what will happen next?
Yeah, so we've got the second course obviously running at the moment. That runs till the end of November, I believe. Then the third course will be starting in the new year. And we'll keep going because we've got whole 7 cohorts to do.
Yeah.
So that's for Wire Forest. Then building from there, obviously we want to scale up this program to be across as many places, leisure sites as possible, to create the most impact we can and give back to as many communities as we can. And this was a goal that was set when the program started, which was why it was made so repeatable for everywhere else. So the first phase of this rollout has started, and within the new year there will be courses in Wandsworth, Andover and Horsham.
Brilliant.
So it is starting.
Actually, Wandsworth is local to me, and a patient came in and said, "I've seen Menopause Movement is coming to Putney Leisure Centre." And I said, well, that's great.
It's on its way. So the aim is by the end of next year to have the course running in 15 of our contracts across the country.
Yeah.
And they will all have the same similar structure and the same impact measures, which is really, really important, because we want to be able to show that it's not just here that the impact is, it is everywhere. And obviously the more control measures, the more places we have doing it, the stronger the data gets. And then we're really, really keen to spread this wider than our leisure centres and into communities. And we really welcome any collaboration opportunities. So if anyone would like to reach out to us, you can contact us at inquirieswireforest@pfpleisure.org.
Is it right to say that where you started the first course, where you're in is it Wyford? I always forget the name. It's not a particularly affluent area. Is that correct?
No, it's not.
No. So again, this is, I mean, it's very promising that this really is open to such a wide range of women as well, not women that already are quite confident about sort of showing up in a leisure centre. So a sort of more personal, general question to all three of you, really, or one of you can answer it. What's your main annoyance about the menopause and how people talk about the menopause?
I personally have a few. Firstly, I think the lack of GP training and lack of GP knowledge is a big thing. It just makes menopause information, menopause help difficult to access. And if you're lucky enough to have an understanding GP, or even better, a GP that's a menopause specialist, brilliant. But aside from that, I think it can be very, very difficult to visit your GP. And one of the things that we addressed within the course was notes that you can take, because we all know about brain fog when we get in there and we forget what we want to ask and what we want to talk about. But yeah, just ways of discussing things with your GP to try and get you the correct treatment and the correct help. And just the attitudes generally towards women with the menopause. Tracy, lights.
You three keep active.
She's on it. Attitudes generally, I think that there tends to be this idea that because all women will go through it at some point in their lives, that we should just get on with it and suffer through it. And I think that's a really poor attitude to have when there's so many options available to help you. So I do think that there's no reason for us to suffer. we can definitely improve it and make it a positive experience.
I think it's the lack of information provided as well to women in early adulthood. A lot of women will go into the perimenopause and think, what's going on with me? Why have I got this symptom? Why am I feeling like this? I know from my own journey, the anxiety and the night sweats and lack of motivation, and it was like, I'm not me anymore. Why is this happening to me? And I think it's just, if you had that knowledge beforehand and you can tick, 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 oh, okay, I've got a reason for why I'm feeling like this. I think it's just really helpful. So maybe some in schools or
Yeah, we get
earlier on.
we get taught, the kids get taught about puberty, they get taught about pregnancy and birth and all those life experiences, but nothing is ever mentioned about menopause specifically. You're told that your periods will stop, but nothing else aside from that, which is really sad.
Yeah, and women do often blame themselves and think, what's wrong with me? So put, looking internally rather than something they understand. No, that's I think that very similar noises that we feel in menopause as well. But you're also right in saying it can be, although some of it can be very tough, there is light at the end of the tunnel as well. So there's also a kind of a lot of good things happening in that period of women's lives. Is there anything else that you'd like everyone to take away from this chat?
I think menopause is a natural stage. Each woman will go through it. And each woman's journey is unique and individual, and like you said, it doesn't have to be a bad experience. And I think by empowering, what we're doing on the course is empowering these women, to giving them the information, going away with the correct information so they can be in control of their own journey. And you're not alone. You're not alone. This group has proved that we're all going through it together. And I think knowledge is power. Use your voice. Use your voice, and it can be a positive experience.
I think that's a beautiful point to finish off. Jo, are there any questions?
Somebody's pointing towards the moving medicine module, which our own dearly beloved Christine contributed to. I'll polish her halo. And Jen, who's got a podcast, who I was just looking up, and her podcast is called The Everyday Healthy Human. Jen said she started going through her perimenopause when she was getting ready for the Ironman World Championships in Kona, and she thought it was just her heavy training. So even people in, you guys aren't always recognizing what's going on for you. Has anyone presented to your course after early menopause or post-surgical menopause? So we're not talking naturally occurring. So yeah, have you guys had anybody who's come sort of, not from the traditional route?
There was one lady that had cancer treatment. I don't recall whether she was actually menopause because of that, or whether that was part of.
No, I think it was later on in life. I think so.
No, not
question though that people don't, we don't all, this average people are arriving at it from an induced state, and actually that would be maybe something that you could be putting into your screening form. Do you ask them their age?
We opened up the course to all women over the age of 18, regardless of whether they were experiencing symptoms or not, because of what we said earlier about empowering them with knowledge at an earlier stage, so they knew what was going to happen. So we thought that opening it up to 18 or over was a good idea on that basis.
Quite a helpful thing to do when I do a talk or an event about the menopause is ask everyone to start with, if they think about menopause, to think about a word, and then I talk about that one in 100 women do have an early menopause, to really shift that thinking of, and often when you have a room of 100 or 200 people, it means there's be a couple of people in there that will have had an early or premature menopause. So that it's not only thought about as an age-related thing. And then once we've sort of talked about early menopause and premature ovarian insufficiency, to think of the word again, so to take the whole age thing out of the thinking of menopause. That's because yes, it can happen much earlier in life as well. And also now a lot of women have their babies earlier. What we so often see in clinic, that women are breastfeeding, and for breastfeeding they hardly have a gap year. They sort of nicely slide into the perimenopause, into the transition after that.
Here is a great question that I missed. So how have the other staff reacted to this program, including men? I love that.
Good question.
I think they've reacted really well. They really have. And in all fairness, before we were involved, it came from men.
Okay.
So our general manager and the healthy communities manager were both men. And they wanted to start the program. So the men here have been absolutely amazing with it.
And to be honest, from the top down, because we're dealing with a man at Places Leisure, and that's how we kind of got in touch with you guys. So I think it's a really inclusive and very welcoming organisation. We have another one. Actually, how often do you do the courses? Obviously, you've done the first course, and I think you said you were going to run 7 by the end of next year. So is there a gap between, or how does it work?
We did leave a short gap, So we left a gap over what would have been the summer holidays, just because we felt that it would be then more accessible for women if they didn't have children maybe off school or planned summer holidays. And then again, this one will finish just in time for Christmas. So they'll have the Christmas break and we'll start the next one again in the new year.
Can I ask, what time do you run? I mean, this is not a problem, but we run our webinars at 7 o'clock in the evening when lots of our, potential clients are actually teaching. What time do you actually run your course? Because women are working, blah, blah, blah.
This has been a bit of an issue, hasn't it?
It has. The first and the second course, we're doing it at 2:30 till 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And the reason for that is it's when our centre is the quietest, so we have access to the dance studio, to the gym, to the other facilities here.
We did look at running an evening course.
Yes, it is a barrier because people are working or they have school runs to do.
Yeah, there is no sweet spot on this, is there? It's, as you say, if that means people can access more of the facilities, then you kind of have to do that trade-off, don't you? And maybe as you build in popularity, you might be able to build in alternative times, I guess.
Yes. One of the things that we have found with the first course that we ran and with the times is that employers have been very understanding about giving the women time off to allow them to attend the course. So we have found that that's been really positive. It wasn't something we were expecting. We expected that to be quite a big barrier, but it's been great that they have been giving them time off to do that.
And actually, that's a great PR link for those companies, because that means they're looking to retain and support that cohort of women. So, I think that's something that maybe between Places Leisure and ourselves, we could develop that, because it's showcasing. We're all about talking about how women need to be supported in all areas of their life. Well, if your employer's letting you kind of have time out to attend a course which is going to be beneficial for everybody, that is amazing. Again, that's something that probably none of us would have expected. Do you have a view on that, whether you'd have thought an employer would give time out for this?
We absolutely didn't think that would be the case at all, did we? So when we managed to fill that first course, and we know several of the ladies that were on it were in that position where they had been given time off work to do that. That was brilliant.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's something else we must remember to put into our own impact assessment. So many women are going into this phase, and I think one of you earlier on said it's that lack of information in early adulthood, and I like that phrase, early adulthood, because we always talk about women arrive here ill prepared, and that's all going to change. And with courses like this, and hopefully you've inspired lots of people who are here tonight to take the leap. Thank you to everyone at Places Leisure, and I'm going to sort of free you all up to Netflix. It won't be nearly as much fun as this, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. That was brilliant.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.